You know, if there'd been an electrical fault somewhere,
Yeah.
it would have blew up. It would, oh no.
Then at the age of 60, you joined the Royal Navy.
100 foot of water, no visibility, and everything was done in darkness. They wanted rid of it.
Blew it to halves.
Blew it to half. Right? First time I worked with George Craig, I didn't realise it. So we welded a new plate on, but it only lasted till Gibraltar. We didn't know how dangerous it was until they told us later. And we carried up on a helicopter because it was full of mines, full of torpedoes, full of ammunition. It just had to be lifted.
Alexander James Laird.
That's me.
You were born in your granny's bed at Little Farm, South Ronaldsay,
That's
in the Orkneys, on the 27th of June 1942.
Correct.
Little Farm has since become world famous, not just because you were born there,
No.
but because of the discovery in 1957 of a 5,000-year-old tomb containing a mixture of bones from around 15 humans, as well as the remain of some white-tailed sea eagles. The tomb is now known as the Tomb of the Eagles.
Correct.
You left there at the age of 3 when your father came home from the war. Your father was in the Seaforth Highlanders, then part of the Desert Rats, and fought at the siege of El Alamein. He'd got himself a job as a boilerman and moved you all to Lyonesse, which is the main naval base of the British Home Fleet at Scapa Flow. The first school that you attended there was North Wall School. Do you remember much about that time?
Well, I remember the snow and the hairy getting stranded in the snow. That's about it, I think.
You got stranded in the snow on your way to school?
Yeah, 22-foot snowdrift, for God's sake.
Wow.
Those were the days. I remember fishing in the burns and things like that. Oh, magic life, you know.
Yeah. Quite idyllic for
Idyllic, yeah.
a young lad growing up on the Orkney Islands.
Yeah. Freedom was great.
Yeah. So you're just allowed to roam, you and your brother.
Yeah.
Do you remember at the time what you wanted to do when you grow up?
Well, funny you should mention that. I saw a boy called Jim Cross in a standard suit when I was very young, about 5-year-old, diving out of a boat. And I said to myself, well, that's not bad, that's a mystery, you know. And from then on, I was lodged. And that's how I've become, I think, a diver in the end.
Well, at the age of 14, you left Orkney to go to Bellevue Academy,
Yeah.
now known as Drummond Community High School in Edinburgh. School memories?
I wasn't very clever. The school children that I mixed with at 14 were way ahead of me, way ahead of Orkney anyway, definitely. So fell behind, I think, quite a lot.
Was that any sort of influence in your career path, do you think?
Well, I was a milk boy. I did milk boy, I did paper rounds, I did everything except homework. My mother took over the Orkney rooms in Hill Street in Edinburgh. She took over a 3-storey house in Edinburgh, the Orkney rooms. And all the Orcadians came from all over.
Was that a guest house?
No, it was actually an old hotel.
Ah.
But they used the 3 floors for Orkney dances, organised meetings, everything, you know. And my mother took over the whole show.
Is that still there, that building?
No, the building's still there, but it's lawyers have got it now.
So you left school, and after a brief spell working as a storeman at Woolworths,
Yeah.
you took your first job at sea as a cabin boy stroke ordinary seaman
Yeah.
on a dockyard tug.
That's right, Impetus, yeah.
Impetus.
Yeah. A steam tug at that. Coal burner. Coal galley. Coal boilers. Coal everything.
And what was your duties on there?
Just look after the skipper.
Yeah.
And learn seamanship.
What sort of ships did you tow?
The Caprice, we towed the Caprice into the basin. The tow snapped, killed McGrory, a chap called McGrory, immediately. And another guy got the full whack in his whole body, and his head was like a balloon. And that was towing the Caprice into the... First time we'd used an island tow rope, and it was contaminated with oil.
Oh, right.
It snapped.
Of course, these days we know better and to look after these sort of things.
Yeah. Well, the tow rope looked good, but when they did the analysis on it,
Yeah.
it was covered. It was a slight. It was oil that caused it, anyways. It was a 30 metre tow rope.
How old?
Well, we got it new, but it'd
Yeah.
been lying in the shed.
Oh, right.
So with the first, rather than use a 25 4.5 inch steel wire, we used the nylon for the first time.
Mm.
And
And did you continue using the iron warps for towing, or did you go back to...
back to the iron warps again? Yeah.
Yeah? But you weren't on there for long, were you?
No.
Then at the age of 16, at the behest of your father, you joined the Royal Navy.
Yeah. Oh, great. HMS Collingwood, EM2, passed out. That was it. It was a good life in the Navy. I loved it.
How did you travel down?
Train, on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a bit daunting?
No, but
Someone
it was,
off the islands and...
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I guess it was at the time. Never thought about it.
yeah. Do you remember your first day of joining?
Yeah, boy shouting at me, yeah. That's why with the brass button shouting. Get your ass in gear and get moving.
So, that was your induction with HMS Collingwood?
Yes.
Where's HMS Collingwood?
It's in Pompey, you're close by.
Fareham.
Yeah. It was the electrical side of things, you know.
Right, so you started training at HMS Collingwood in Fareham, where you became electrician's mate first class.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that route?
Well, after being a seaman, I thought, we'll try someone else, that was all.
So you wanted to be a diver,
Yeah.
so becoming...
That came later, yeah.
All right,
Ship's diver first, yeah.
yeah. How did you become a ship's diver?
When we left HMS Vernon, we come up, minesweeper up to Rosyth Dockyard, and we saw the divers, the Royal Navy divers, diving off the north wall, and I thought, we'll have a bit of that. So applied to the commanding officer and got a diving course.
So that was when you left Collingwood, yeah?
Yeah.
So you went to complete your
HMS
training...
Vernon, went to HMS Vernon.
HMS Vernon in Portsmouth,
Yeah.
harbour there.
Yeah. It's gone now, I think it's done.
Yeah, that's gone, yeah, it's now a shopping precinct. Gun Wharf it's called now. Yeah, so you went to complete your training at HMS Osprey,
Yeah.
which is an anti-submarine located at the Isle of Portland in Dorset.
That's right, yeah.
Was that's still part of your electrical training?
No.
Or was that part of your diver
No,
training?
we went on board HMS Osprey as a maintenance party. That's what we were doing. So we spent quite a long time on the plover in a hammock.
Yeah,
First time
right.
I used a hammock in the mine bay.
Wish they still had hammocks.
Pardon?
Wish they still had hammocks.
Yeah.
Far more comfortable than the bunks we
Yeah.
have aboard here.
Yeah.
Your first deployment was on board the minesweeper HMS Kilcranky. What was that like? Having your first deployment at sea?
Seasick. Terrible seasick.
And you're still seasick to this day, yeah?
Yeah. 64 years later. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Your first deployment was aboard the minesweeper HMS Killiecrankie. Where was that sailing from?
Yeah. Granton. Leith.
So you had to go all the way back up to pretty much where you'd come from. home
Yep.
to join your first ship. What were your tasks aboard there?
EM1, electrical mechanic one, first class.
So you hadn't actually got into any diving at this point.
Not at that point, no.
So what was it? Ship's maintenance you were doing?
Yep. All the electrical stuff. We get right down to the galley stove, you know.
Yeah.
Get rid of F's on board the ship, you know. That was alright.
Troubleshooting. Well, see, they went to HMS Plover,
Yeah.
Second World War mine layer, working out of Portland.
Yeah.
Was there much call for mine laying in peacetime?
Not really, no.
1963 gave you your first foreign deployment,
Yeah.
sailing aboard the minesweeper HMS Northumbria
Yep.
on your way to be based in Antigua.
We went to replace the HMS Rothsay, was in the refit.
So you sailed all the way from,
Pompey to Madeira,
yeah,
Madeira to St. Vincent, right into the Caribbean, Antigua, Bermuda, Jamaica, you name it, Chaguaramas, none of you have that. The American Naval Base.
I have now.
Yeah, Chaguaramas.
So what was it like?
Seasick.
It's a long way for a minesweeper.
It's a long way from the Mysore.
But I suppose
There's
they
four
could-
of us, there's 4 Mysore.
Yeah, what, in convoy?
In convoy, yeah.
Well, I
To
suppose.
leave one bloody ship.
Why? Why for?
Well, we're going to show the flag, that's what it was.
All right.
One went one way, one went another way,
Uh-huh.
went another way, one south, north, just to show the flag. No, not
So how did it feel then, a young lad from Orkney, suddenly visiting all these exotic places in the Caribbean?
Yeah. Great life.
Is that why you joined the Navy?
Well, that would
Travel?
say so, that would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
See the world, yeah.
Bit like this job, eh?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's about this time that you and the mainstream Royal Navy decided that you would be better off going your separate ways.
Yeah.
On leaving the Navy, you found yourself at HMS Safeguard, as you've said,
Yes.
a shore training establishment out of South, which housed the Naval Auxiliaries Director of Marine Services.
That's right. Yeah. Correct.
And it was here that you attended the standard diving course. So this is obviously one up from a ship's diver, is it? Standard diver.
Harder course. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 2 months. Yeah.
What led you in that direction? Having left the Navy, mainstream Navy.
Wasn't happy being just a ship's diver. I wanted
Yeah.
to do something else. Yeah. And the standard diving at that time was the thing at that time. Not now, but it was then.
Did you know all about this when you were a ship's diver, or did somebody tell
Oh,
you
yeah,
about it after you
so
left?
We saw them working. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did the training differ?
The training different because you had a hard hat on rather than free diving. You
Uh-huh.
had just big boots on, weights.
So before you were what,
200 odd
scuba
pound
diving, were you?
Pardon?
You were scuba diving before, were you?
Yeah, well, the ship's diving was scuba diving.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it as a hobby. I did it as a job.
Yeah. So as a standard diver, you're then going deep
Yeah.
with your hard hat, your classic hard hat.
We were limited to 180 feet at that time.
Did you join an established team, diving team, or was the
Later
team
on,
formed?
When I passed out, I did. Yeah, we had our own team under a chap called Jake Ingalls, diving officer.
So when you did your training for the standard diver, the people that you trained with, were they part of your team going through, or were you all set?
They were all over the country.
All
Pompey,
set separate ways?
They went separate ways, yeah. I joined Gargani, a salvage ship after that. And then with 2 divers aboard the ship in those days. Now it's a lot more, but only 2 divers and 2 attendants. Now it's 2 divers and about 4 attendants. Or 4 divers and 2 attendants, you know.
All safety?
For safety, yeah. Completely different now.
Yeah. So it was after the completion of this course at Safeguard that you went, like you said, aboard the
Salvage ship Gargani, yeah.
the RMAS, the Royal Marine Auxiliary, Royal Maritime Auxiliary Service.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But you were shore-based, but were taken out of the ship when you were needed. You weren't.
We went all over the world after that.
Yeah, you weren't actually living on the ship.
Yeah, I lived on the ship, yeah.
All the time,
All the
okay.
time.
So between deployments, being sent here and there, what were you doing?
That was my base. we did more training, welding, burning, underwater burning, welding, to keep your standard up at the same place. Diving school, safeguard.
Were they qualifications that you did in welding?
No,
For example, burning welding?
we passed out our own qualification, not a recognised, not to get passed.
They weren't transferable to civil life,
No, not really, no.
but a lot of it was on-the-job training.
Yeah. We could patch up a ship, welding, no problem.
So, all your diving equipment was kept aboard the ship?
Yep, that's right, yeah. The burning gear, the welding gear, pumps, everything was aboard the ship for salvage, yeah.
The bread and butter of your job appears to have been the salvaging of military aircraft for the purpose of accident investigation
Yep.
and the recovery of the deceased occupants if they were still there.
We lifted the first Harrier jump jet off Grimsby, believe it or not. And at that time, a flock of birds had gone into the intakes, and down she went. It was only in about 20 foot of water. But when we got it back to the shore establishment to do their checks, they found that's what's wrong. Now there's a grid or something else stops it from sucking in birds now, a grill or some damn thing. But that's what it was, wide open in those days.
Yeah.
It was straight in and down she went.
And the pilot?
Pilot never lived. No, he
No.
picked the pilot up and transferred him ashore.
So apart from was it a Sea Harrier that you had?
No, it was I don't know if it was a Sea Harrier or not. It was the first jump jet anyway.
No. So apart from that, you had about 6 Lightning jet fighters, the Phantom,
Yep.
Jaguar,
Jaguar.
Scimitar,
2 Jaguars, yeah.
2 Jaguars, the Jet Provost,
Jet Provost, yeah.
Sea King,
Sea King.
Wasp,
Wasp.
Sea Stallion,
Sea Stallion, yeah.
and of course several ships and smaller vessels of varying sizes, and indeed submarines you've
Yeah.
recovered.
Submarine exercise every year. It's called Submiss.
How did you train initially for recovering aircraft? Was that a shore-based training or was that training on the job?
We had to do an ejector seat course. Put the pins in. If we found an aircraft on the bottom and the ejector seat hadn't been sprung, we had to put the pin in, and that's the only way we could lift it. Before we could lift it, we had to put the pin in. You know, that was the only training we ever done. The rest was just pick up,
On-the-job training from people more experienced.
looking for the orange box or whatever it was
Yeah.
at that time.
So there's not a huge mock-up somewhere of a aircraft underwater where they put you in a tank and train you to...
There was, yeah, there was. We did a WASP training, helicopter training in Portland. That was a mock-up, yeah, with the gym suit, with the ADF.
That was a bit later though, was it?
Yeah, that was for NATO exercise.
But when you first started the recovery diving of ditched aircraft and everything, it was all just on the job.
Find what you find, that's it.
Yeah.
And recover the pilots or navigators or whatever the hell might be, and take them home.
Well, I was going to come to that. How did the Navy prepare you for the first time in dealing with bodies, some of which must have been down there for quite a while?
None at all.
None at all.
None at all.
You were just sent in there to deal with
Scooped it
it.
into a plastic bag, sent it up. You know.
Yeah. I say I presume some were, let's say, quite fresh, and others had been down there for the time it took you to
Some were very
find
smelly,
the aircraft.
Very smelly, yeah.
Yeah. Which you don't notice until you got on the surface and you take your helmet off.
That's right. The guys that take it off you, they're the ones that's going.
Yeah. I suppose that you have to develop a black sense of humour, do you?
That's exactly that.
That's how you deal with it.
We used to put the it just come natural in the end.
Yeah. There's a couple of times that the vessels that you were on nearly came a cropper. One occasion was when you tried to lift a sunken mooring for a World War II barrage balloon.
That's right, yeah.
Proved to be a little heavier than you expected.
300 ton, yeah. Bloody know it.
And what were you expecting?
thought it was made of wood. I thought it was made of wood.
Well, because it floated.
And the
Yeah.
because it sunk. And the skipper was lifting it, 50-ton blocks on each arm to lift it, and then the ship was going down and down and down. And you went and looked at the, as you know yourself, the water line, and you could tell with the draft how much weight was on that 300 ton.
And quite a list as well.
So in the end, we put a 600-ton bomb in it and blew the whole lot up. And it's just outside Grimsby Harbour. It's in pieces now.
What about the Grimsby trawler? That you had to do a salvage job and you put the boom through the deck?
Oh no, that was a salvage ship. It was called a dispenser. Lifting our motorboat over the side, snapped the whole what do you call it, what do you call it?
The boom?
The boom, yeah. Snapped it they went right through
the boom.
The same ship in Fraserburgh sat on a target. You know, we used to take in Harry targets into Fraserburgh.
Yeah.
But they had a radar reflectors, solid, and it fell in the water. And we rested on it and right through the hull and sunk the ship in the harbour. The skipper's playing pool. What's that going by? 5 inches. There's a ship sinking in the harbour. Oh, great, he said, yeah. Skipper, it's your ship. You know, if there'd been an electrical fault somewhere, it would have blew up. It would, oh no.
Then at the age of 16, you joined the Royal Navy.
100 foot of water, no visibility, and everything was done in darkness. They wanted rid of it.
Blew it two halves.
Blew it to half, yeah. First time I worked with George Craig, I didn't realise it. So we welded a new plate on, but it only lasted till you brought. We didn't know how dangerous it was until they told us later, like. And he was carried off in a helicopter because it was full of mines, full of torpedoes, full of ammunition. It just had to be lifted.